Less than 1 week to the U.S. presidential election, the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris is warning Americans that the Republican candidate Donald Trump would open up a floodgate of vengeance against his political rivals, including ordinary Americans. In her campaign in Washington, D.C., this was billed as a closing argument speech by our campaign office. Ms. Harris promised she would work for the American people. We have details in this report.
If you vote for me, inflation will end.
We need a president who works for all the American people.
Taking a position where former President Donald Trump told his supporters on January 6, 2021 in Ellipse, Washington, D.C. to fight like hell just before the U.S. Capitol was ransacked, Vice President Kamala Harris describes the oncoming election as a choice between the liberty she has promised to protect and the chaos and division she alleged would follow Mr. Trump back into the White House if elected. With the White House close by, Kamala Harris told a crowd of supporters that in less than 90 days, either herself or Donald Trump will be in the Oval Office. But she added that if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with a list of enemies. But she will walk in with a to-do list full of priorities on what she will do for the American people. She spoke for about half an hour, measuring her policy plan against Mr. Trump's, promising she would expand Medicare to cover home health care, while Mr. Trump would try to cut the program. She also said she would back women's reproductive rights, where Mr. Trump will further restrict them. She added she would compromise where necessary, while Mr. Trump would feast on conflict. Vice President Harris claims Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against Americans who disagree with him, alleging he is obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out of unchecked power.
I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your life better. I am not looking to score political points. I am looking to make progress. I pledge to listen to experts, to those who will be impacted by the decisions I make, and to people who disagree with me. Unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table.
On his part, the U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump says his rally in New York City on Sunday was an absolute love fest. Mr. Trump added that it was an honor to be involved in the Madison Square Garden rally, but he distanced himself from the stand-up comedian who described Puerto Rico during his comic space as an island of garbage. He was asked to personally apologize for the joke, which caused widespread offense. Opinion polls suggest Mr. Trump and his Democratic rival, Kamala Harris, are neck to neck in less than a week to the November 5th presidential election. Both are scrambling to woo Latino voters in the critical swing state of Pennsylvania, which is home to more than 47,000 Puerto Ricans.
For an analysis of the controversy surrounding the upcoming U.S. presidential election, I'm now being joined by a former captain in the U.S. Army, Bish Johnson, and he joins us from the Federal Capital Territory here in Nigeria. It's good to have you join us on The World Now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Well, yeah, of course, it's just a few. We're counting down to the U.S. election. The March talked about U.S. election. And Vice President Kamala Harris, of course, and Donald Trump will face off yet again and was seeing Trump a two-time comeback from the election. Talk to us about really what key factors are going to determine who emerges winner in this election.
Okay, you're asking me what are the factors?
The key factors, exactly.
Well, personally for me, it is not quite clear for me as a person. Before I begin, let me just give you this caveat. I'm a registered Democrat. I've also cast my vote for a Democratic candidate. But I can tell you that, look, as far as I'm concerned, there are no 1-2 factors that can determine this election. You know, some political pundits have said it's economy, it's immigration. Yeah, there are some people who will vote based on economy and immigration. But ordinarily, Americans don't vote on just one factor. You know, they look at a variety of factors. You have the character of the president is also, is at stake. You have, reproductive rights for women, which is also at stake. And since Donald Trump won election in 2016, from that day till now, he has never won any other election. The Republicans lost in 2018 midterm elections. In 2020, Donald Trump was defeated by Joe Biden. In 2022, there was supposed to be a red wave, as predicted by political pundits and polls, which never materialized. So as it is right now, for me, the only poll that matters is that poll that will be conducted on the 5th of November, which is the voting of the people. So it is not quite clear to me that any 1-2 factors is going to determine the outcome of this election. The electors are looking at various factors. I'm a voter. I have voted. Yes, economy is there, immigration is there, but those are not my top issues. My top issues is that an American president is not just a president. American president is a role model to the people. America is a beacon of hope, the shining house on the hill that the entire world looks up to. So what happens in the United States does not stay and die in the United States. The whole world is looking. If America returns someone who has been described as a fascist, then America has lost the moral ground to talk to other countries in the world about issues of democracy and all that stuff. So to me, it's not that clear that there will be any 2 factors that will determine the outcome of this election.
I hear you, sir, particularly, I was going to ask if you had voted yourself, and thankfully you were able to answer that. But people have, of course, questioned Kamala Harris' policies and talked about how she probably did not voice all of these policies she's talking about while she was serving with President Joe Biden. But for you, I know you had highlighted some of the issues that resonate with you, but for other Americans, what issues resonate, with them that might be a determinant for this election?
So many issues. The economy is there, immigration is there, reproductive rights is there, the integrity of the leadership is also there. I've heard people say, talk about Kamala Harris has done a fantastic job in explaining her policies to the American people. She is a vice president. The vice president is not the one who makes the final call. The final call is made by the president and commander-in-chief of the United States of America, not the vice president. The vice president is there to support the president. And the vice president only does those things that the president wants him or her to do. People are not asking, where is Donald Trump's former vice president, Mike Pence? Where is he? His former vice president is not supporting him. All the top generals who served him, his national security advisor is not supporting him. The former chairman, Joint Chief, is not supporting him. The former defense secretary is not supporting him. Okay, all of the people that worked with Donald Trump still remember the chaos that Donald Trump brought to the White House in 2016. And that is what Americans are trying to run away from. And I don't think Americans deserve another 4 years of chaos and vengeance and instability. They talked about, the economy was good during Donald Trump's time. Yes, the economy was good in the first 2 years of Donald Trump because that was the economy that Barack Obama handed over to him, which he squandered because he was unable to manage a global pandemic. He was asking Americans to drink bleach. He created chaos. He refused to listen to experts in the medical fields on how to tame the pandemic. So he now lost all the jobs. The only president to have lost more jobs in the last 50 years. So he left a huge mountain of problems and challenges for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to clean up. And so they're on the way to clean it up. All of the figures that were up high as a result of that global pandemic are all coming down. Inflation is down. The gas price, from what I understand, is about $3 and a couple of cents right now. So Harris and Biden have done a fantastic job. And I think it will make sense that they continue to build on the foundation that they have laid after cleaning up the mess that Donald Trump left for them in the White House.
Of course, these are your own perspectives, because, of course, I know where you'd lean to since you're a Democrat. Talk to us about, you have served in the U.S. Army, and we've heard for a couple of days ago that there were arson incidents in Oregon and Washington, D.C., and how concerned should voters be about election security?
Well, the issue, there's going to be one or two incidents right there, here and there. But U.S. elections are not like, the elections that we see in other parts of the world, particularly in the developing countries. There's not going to be that election insecurity to the point that people are not able to get out to their house to go and vote. I understand what happened in Oregon. I understand what happened in Washington State, not Washington, D.C. These are Pacific Northwestern states, and these are heavily Democratic states. Just like California will go for Democrats, Washington State will go for Democrats, Oregon will go for Democrats. So there is no amount of burning of ballot boxes that is going to change that. If you watch, those three states are not part of the swing states that we're talking about right here, because these are heavily Democratic states. But there won't be any election security challenges that will prevent people from voting. There are various ways and means you can vote. People are voting from their homes. People are dropping off their votes in ballot boxes. I am here in Nigeria. I voted right here in Nigeria, went to the U.S. Embassy, dropped off my ballot paper, and it's made it back to my home state of Georgia. And so are all military personnel, U.S. military personnel, former military personnel, U.S. citizens that are spread all over the world are also voting. Their votes will make it back to the United States. It will be counted, and they will be counted for. Because these are one of the issues that we have been raising here in Nigeria. The election of the commander-in-chief is a very serious election. And we find a situation here in Nigeria where military personnel, security service members are not given the opportunity to vote because they are working on the day of election. I think these are the things that we have to correct in this country, because this is a decision. You're electing someone who will make decision whether you go to war or you don't go to war. Somebody who will put your life in harm's way and probably ruin the life of not just your life and that of your, not just your own life, but that of your family, put them in harm's way. So you should be able to have that opportunity to determine who that individual will be. So some of the things that we need to look at in this country, where we have other means for people to cast their vote, and not just security agencies and military personnel who will be out there, over a million of them, don't have the opportunity to determine who becomes their commander-in-chief.
Former captain in the U.S. Army, Bish Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the U.S. election.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're still in the United States, but before we go there, let's go on a short break, and then we'll return to tell you